What's up and welcome back to the Gridiron with Chance Aspen. Make sure you subscribe down below, like this video, comment. Now, enjoy this video. Alright, welcome back to week 18 of my 5 NFL thoughts. If you don't know by now, I give you 5 NFL thoughts every single week. This is the season finale or regular season of my 5 NFL thoughts. We'll carry the 5 NFL thoughts into the playoffs, but this is the final one of the regular season. Let's get started. Thought number 1. The pressure is on the Baltimore Ravens this year. It's time to get to a Super Bowl and win it. It's time to get over the hump. You had a great year in 2019 when Lamar Jackson was the MVP. You were the number 1 seed. You were the best team in the sport. Everybody thought you were going to cruise to the Super Bowl, and you got knocked out in the divisional round. Then last year, you're the number 1 seed. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. Everybody thinks you're going to cruise to the Super Bowl, and you lose in the AFC Championship on your home turf against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the year for the Baltimore Ravens. If not this year, I expect some changes to happen. I love John Harbaugh. He's a hell of a coach, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get knocked out early in the playoffs. I would not be shocked if they get rid of him. Now, I know that's going to sound crazy, but it would not shock me. It is time for Baltimore to take that step. You've been the number 1 seed. You've been a top team for the last 5-6 years now. It's time to get over that hump again and go to a Super Bowl, especially when you have one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world this year, in Lamar Jackson. There's no preparing for Lamar Jackson. You have a one-of-one player on the field. Most games, you are going to have the best player on the field. Your defense has improved throughout the year. It's now looking like that defense that we saw last year. Your offense is probably a top 3 offense in the sport. This is the year for the Baltimore Ravens. This is the year that they need to get over that hump. They need to find a way to get to a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they have to win a Super Bowl. Now, that's the expectation when you get there is to win it. But they got to get there at least. Lamar's got to get there. And the Baltimore Ravens as a team have to get there. They're way too good to keep coming up short in these playoffs. Way too good. And for the last 3 to 4 years, they've come up short time and time again. They have to get over that hump. And I'm interested to see if they do it this year. Thought number 2. The Minnesota Vikings versus the Detroit Lions game was disappointing. Considering the hype, right? Before the game, there was a lot of hype going on. 2 teams, both with 14 wins. First time ever in NFL history that 2 teams faced off with both 14 or more wins, which is insane to even think about. But the game really wasn't well played. Both quarterbacks looked how I think they are. They're both pretty average quarterbacks. Both of them are not elite. And it was just underwhelming. Detroit took a big lead late and ran the ball well and played excellent defense. Aaron Glenn's game plan on the defensive side of the ball for Detroit was fantastic. It was maybe the best game plan I've seen all year. But considering the hype, this was like a NFC Championship preview. And it just didn't live up to it. And I just wanted to talk about it because I hate when games don't live up to the hype. I hate when games have so much hype going in, but just don't live up to it. And this game just didn't. There were sloppy turnovers by both quarterbacks. I don't think either team played their best football for most of the game. Detroit started to look a lot better late in the second half where they took a big lead and started to look like the Detroit Lions that we saw throughout the year. But Minnesota looked pretty horrible. I thought Kevin O'Connell looked a little young as a head coach. I thought he got sucked into playing Dan Campbell's game. He started going forward on a lot of 4th downs, which I think if he wasn't playing Dan Campbell and the Lions, I don't know if he would have went for it like that. And I hate when games don't live up to the hype. This is a weird thought, but I just don't like when a game has so much hype, but then you almost feel a little like, that's it? That's all it was? That's what I felt on Sunday. It wasn't a bad game, but it just wasn't the game that lived up to the hype that people were talking about before the game. Thought number 3. Lamar Jackson should be the MVP. For the last couple of weeks, I've gone back and forth in my head. Is it Josh Allen? Is it Saquon? Is it Joe Burrow? But Lamar Jackson has the best statistics in the NFL. Yes, he doesn't lead in passing yards and passing touchdowns. But if you look at every kind of advanced statistic, passer rating, QBR, he leads in all of it. I don't think really anybody else has a case, even Josh Allen. The only reason why people are going to give it to Josh Allen if he gets it is because of a narrative, not because he played better football than Lamar. I think Lamar right now is the best player in the world. The world. And I think he deserves the league MVP. I think he's earned the league MVP. And I think he deserves it. He's played the best football all year. He has one of the highest passer ratings of all time. His QBR is elite. He's barely turned the football over, which is amazing for how often they've thrown the ball this year. He's ran the ball like only Lamar Jackson can run the ball. He is this year's league MVP, in my opinion. Thought number 4. What were the New England Patriots doing this week? What were they doing? You have a chance to win the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You have a chance to draft whoever you want at number 1. And instead, you go out there and you win. Now, for the players, I get it. Like, the players, you can never tell the players to tank. That's just not in their DNA. They're competitors. They want to win every game they play. That's what makes them great football players, is their competitiveness. But ownership, front office, coaches should have done whatever it took to get that number 1 overall pick. Even if they're not going to take number 1. Because they could have even traded that number 1 pick and got more assets if they didn't draft at number 1. Now they're number 4. So now they lose all leverage. They can't even trade the number 1 pick and get even more draft picks. I just thought it was a big mistake. I talked about this a couple weeks ago with the Giants. And the Giants winning when they had a chance to get the number 1 pick. And they won. It's the same thing with the Patriots. I think that's a big reason why Gerard Mayo might have gotten fired. Now, obviously it's more than that. I don't think he was a very good head coach. But I think them winning might have hurt his chances of returning. Because if you ask ownership definitely wanted to lose that game and get the number 1 overall pick. You get your pick of the litter of any football player in the draft. Now you have to get the 4th pick. Now, the 4th pick is still good. It's just not number 1. It doesn't have the same value as number 1 does. And all you had to do was lose that game. Again, not blaming the players. It's not the players' job to tank. It's in their DNA to win every time they step on the field. But the ownership and the coaches should have found a way to lose that game. And I hate saying that because I don't like when teams tank. But when you have a chance on the last week of the season and you have the number 1 pick, if you lose that football game. It's not worth it. It's just not. My 5th and final thought here in Week 18, here it is, thought number 5. Week 18 is boring. It just is. It's just a boring week. Most teams have playoff spots locked up, or most teams are already out of the playoffs. There were 2 games this week that actually had some sort of meaning. Pittsburgh against Cincinnati, Minnesota against Detroit. And Minnesota against Detroit, I already talked about it earlier, was underwhelming for how much hype it had. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati was a good football game. Wasn't high scoring or anything like that or exciting, but it was a good, well-played football game by both teams. You could see both teams desperately wanted to win it. But the rest of the week, the early window on Sunday, the late window on Sunday were horrible. Just horrible. The Chiefs, now I get it. The Chiefs have the number 1 seed locked up, but they put like a junior varsity team out there. I actually thought it was a tad embarrassing for the Chiefs. Now, it's not going to affect them in the playoffs. I just thought it was embarrassing that how little effort they put into winning that football game. At least try. They didn't even look like they tried, coaches included. I love Andy Reid. He's the best coach in the game. But he didn't even try to win that game. Same with Buffalo. Buffalo didn't even try to win, it looked like. And it's almost like, why do we even have Week 18? Teams don't even care. Teams either have a playoff spot locked up or they're out of the playoffs. It looked like the preseason. I had to remind myself, wait, this isn't the preseason. This is a week before the playoffs. And just nobody cared. And it was a boring day of football. It just was. Saturday there was one good game, and Sunday night there was a good game. Or game with meaning. Other than that, bad football going on. But that's my NFL thoughts. Again, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, comment, and have an awesome day.